Hi, I'm Joss Whedon.
Hi, I'm David Greenwalt.
And we co-created the show Angel and co-wrote the pilot, which I directed. And now we're going to talk through it, try to think up some cool insights to tell you all about it.
Here we are in the big city of L.A.
Started with a girl.
Nice establishing shot of a bar.
She was a really, really pretty girl.
And come to our fabulous drunken hero.
She was hot.
Which I thought was a great introduction for Angel. You know, we were saying,
Hair.
how are we going to transplant this guy to the big city? And Joss said, well, what if when the first time you meet him, he's a big drunken loser? Which I thought was a great way to introduce a hero into a new milieu.
The same way with Buffy, when she's supposed to look like a dope and turn out to be a hero. He looks so much like a hero, we thought, what if he looked like a dope? And then what if we found out, that he was in fact play acting? And, so we see a lot of different sides of Angel right away. This whole teaser, this whole cold open was designed to sort of show Angel, and he's very funny.
There he's going, girls are nice.
Show Angel, his many sides, how he fools people, how he saves them, and how he ultimately can't relate to them at all. And David, who's so funny, can turn on a dime as he does here.
And I love this shot that Joss did.
I haven't seen all John Woo movies. I'm not obsessed with John Woo movies.
I love the fans in the
Stealing is a
ceiling.
strong word.
And, a winsome girl threatened in an alley. I didn't say we were the most original people ever born.
I actually felt a great sense of betrayal of my feminist sensibilities, because the last time a girl was threatened in an alley, she turned out to be the Slayer, and this time she had to have a big, strong hero save her. But luckily, he turned out to be a big, strong hero who was so incredibly messed up and had so many emotional problems that it still felt like an interesting story to tell.
Hardcore fans will note the new vampire makeup here that didn't last long. The big funny lumps are actually more due to the painting than the sculpting of these new vampire pieces.
We tried to go back to an older look for the vampires so they were scarier, but these guys looked a little kabuki mask.
Here's if I do say so on Joss's behalf, a rather beautifully executed stunt sequence.
And, of course, the double stake.
The double staking and the ratchets.
This was an attempt, to go a little bit Batman, to get, to make him different than Buffy, to make his style and his world a little bit more hyper-real superhero. In Buffy, everything is normal, everything is the real world, plus a little bit of creep. In this, we're clearly not living with where the people are at all.
Here's the third twist of the teaser. First you think he's a drunken lout, then you think he's a cool, dark Batman guy, and now you realize he's a fairly troubled fella who does not want to be close to the humans.
And part of that is because he lost his Buffy.
Of course, is a shot you can see every week on TV's Angel.
Beautiful alley, which you've seen in 100 commercials. The opening credits, very exciting to me. Telling a story of people in need and the angel watching over them. It's very specific, and very specific emotionally, doing a similar thing to what we did on Buffy, starting out in a certain world. In Buffy, it was a horror world, and then it became rock and roll. In this, it's a sort of sad, poignant cello world that then gets kind of rockin' because Angel is there to protect people. We did the same thing we did with Buffy, which was find a bunch of different bands and say, this is the feeling we want. Why don't you send us an idea? And Darling Violetta, who's a good cello rock band, which is really what we were looking for, came up with the one that hit. And this is very similar to the first thing they sent us. Those are two beautiful names.
Right there. When did this premiere? Fall of '99?
Sometime during time. No, I have no sense of time. All I know is we were doing Buffy at the same time.
Beautiful backlot of Paramount, which we used a lot the first year until we blew it up. But a fantastic set.
A lovely looking set, a lovely, well-designed set, but ultimately a little dour, a little cramped, and it had a big pit in the middle. So we ultimately said, I think we need to move on, and in our world, moving on means blowing things up. Also, the elevator.
The elevator meant a lot to us. We hated to give up the elevator.
But it moved really slowly. That shot is actually sped up.
Yeah, the elevator goes so...
We were so excited about it, and then it took like 45 minutes.
So every time he says, we have to go save these people, let's go, and then they get in the elevator going, and they're going up really slowly. So here's a cool guy living alone, and suddenly there's someone else in the apartment with him. And his character Doyle, in a way, a voice of Angel's somewhat unconscious conscience.
And also a sort of mentor figure, and a person to sort of give both his life and the show's structure, and a demon too. Eventually, the visions he has, which send Angel on their mission, we gave them to Cordelia, finding it very interesting to give them to somebody who had no idea how to deal with them, as opposed to somebody who already knew everything. But for the beginning of the show, it's very useful to have somebody who knows everything, and then to have a really long, I like to say interesting sequence where he explains everything. Putting in the flashbacks was actually something we hadn't intended to do, but it came from the studio.
It in fact came from the studio.
It helped tell the story very much, and helped make it more visual, and so we used a bunch of stuff that had happened to him on Buffy. The idea was always that people who watched Buffy could take the mythology further, and people who didn't watch Buffy could understand exactly what was going on. And although we say it once, I believe, we tried to avoid saying the name Buffy ever, because we found it a little more poignant just to refer to her as that girl, to make her sort of the mysterious girl of his past, again, for people who weren't fans of the original show.
And we have hundreds of viewers almost every week.
Hundreds and upon dozens of people watching our shows.
Angel just does not want to be with the people, and he thinks he can go around saving lives without having to interact with people. And he's still hurting from the loss of the Buffy.
The episode being that he learns to interact with the people. Not much luck with the saving of the people.
Well, he does
in this one, but he can't have everything. At least he's nice to one of them once at some point, I think.
Because now I'm going to tell you what happens next.
We had a terrific director of photography named Herb Davis, who...
He had been a camera operator on Buffy, and the DP on Buffy, Michael Gershman, nipped at our heels for months to give Herb a shot to light Angel, and quite frankly, the show wouldn't still be on the air if he hadn't. He's really, really fast and good and makes beautiful, sort of moody frames, and you really get a sense of the loneliness of his place. I love when the fridge was open, and just the blood. He knows where to put the light and where to give us the nice darks, because Angel has to have nice darks. Hey, they're still talking.
They've been talking a long time.
Stuff. They're just going to talk.
These shows have to be done in about 8 working days, and it's an incredible amount of work. When they look beautiful, I think it's quite an accomplishment. Also, terrific production design in the show.
The idea of the flashes that we had between each scene actually came from the way one of the editors on Buffy, Regis Kimball, sort of designed the promo piece that we shot, and he had done these weird flashes, and we decided to use them as our interstitials for all the scenes because they gave it a really sweet energy. And that was his concept.
And we hope it adds a lot to the show, but our fear is in a few years, kids are going to look at it and go, well, that's a bunch of dated hack stuff. So.
Like big 70s zooms or stuff. So we try to keep it under wraps and not let it interfere with the story, but it does pop nicely. Years from now, people are going to be making fun of us, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. Possibly even months from now. It may not take that long.
It may be happening in the next room. Still with the exposition, but at least they went outside. A lot to set up, and now he's giving Angel, of course, the name of the person he has to save. his whole bent being got to get in with the people, got to interact. And one of the great things about David, although he looks like a manly hero and is, every inch the guy you would fear and respect and possibly want to cradle you in his arms, not me personally, all the time, but he does have a vulnerability that works in the same way that Buffy's works. When he plays shy or uncomfortable or I just don't know how to fit in here, which most of the people I know who live in LA feel like anyway. So there's something very relatable about him, even though he looks like a statue.
I love that he's not a perfectly chiseled fellow, and that he is not full of self-assurance. And in fact, sometimes, actually bangs down the wrong door.
And is a buffoon. He can give us good buffoon. David, in real life, of course, is a jolly and silly guy. He likes to, he works hard, but he likes to have the fun and clown around. And when you see a little bit of that in Angel, when he gets to have fun with it, it's very important. Tracy Middendorf was our actress du jour, whom he tries real hard to save. She was wonderful and just brought a lot of depth to what could have been a very sort of shallow part, because we have exactly 5 minutes to learn everything about her and everything she's going through, and she gives it all with a look.
There's Angel with his super fast reflexes, making inroads with the girl. Here's Angel trying to make a connection with the girl and trying not to seem like an actual stalker.
Her reaction to him, his uncomfortableness, his playing drunk, and everything is just, again, because David brings so much to the part, but also because David Greenwalt and I we can't just make a straight action hero who's just stalwart and true and everybody likes him, or, we'd get bored. So the more we can trip him up, the better it is. Now here the girl says to him, I get off at 10, 5 seconds after she's met him, and that would be perfectly acceptable in most TV, but it bugged the hell out of us, of course, but she turns out to be just lying to him because she suspects him of something else, so it's never, hopefully, if we do it right, it's never going to be just the simple TV formula of guy and girl like each other because they're just so good looking.
Here's an exciting and expensive location shot.
Okay.
Which the untrained eye might think you just did on a set somewhere, but actually we're down in beautiful Redondo Beach or somewhere.
There's a lot of very, very beautiful footage from myself, the Great Auteur. I can actually make a very expensive location look as though we're shooting it in front of a black curtain, and a lot of your hack directors can't do that. But I think actually in the next scene, you'll see some pretty extraordinary work. But you can see those house in the background.
No, it's in fact the show's beautifully shot.
Yeah, sure. No, that's fine. No, really, I'm fine.
You'll get other work.
Yeah, okay.
Eventually.
I'm learning as I go.
There's a marvelous kind of tiredness in Tracy Middendorf's eyes that I thought really brought it. She's obviously a beautiful young woman, but there's this sorrow and tiredness underneath it that I really liked what it brought to the show.
To find somebody who can play, I've seen it all, but I'm still the young ingenue, is it's not actually as easy as it sounds. There are a lot of great actors in LA, but finding one who can embody exactly what you're looking for is tough, and she did a great job. We're going to the party. Now the exterior we're about to see, that is where we shot the party. It is in fact inside that fancy hotel.
It's a big fancy hotel on the Sunset Strip. Here's a little video work. There's a fabulous view from
balcony.
Every single one of these windows.
Gorgeous balcony, in this fancy LA party. And I managed to tent off the gorgeous balcony and never see it. And as David has mentioned before, and if I don't mention it first, will again, I have managed to make the place look like an airport lounge.
Well, we just like to say the white zone is for loading and unloading only.
Yeah, so I also remember resolutely saying, I don't need a steady cam. Why would I need a steady cam? Everyone's just going to talk. I don't need a steady cam, which made it very hard to get a sense of moving through the party. And the party itself, kind of tame. But, some highlights, Oliver, of course, being one of them. This character was someone we hoped to bring back, and in fact did in episode 17 of the same season. The one real piece of L.A. in the story, the one telling Angel he should be an actor because he's so pretty.
Yeah, this is Angel, who is a vampire, who is a lone hero. The idea of him at a Hollywood party is somewhat amusing to me. Because these people are stranger than he is.
L.A. was always supposed to be a character in the show, and the L.A.-ness, and sometimes we hit it, and sometimes on the back lots of Paramount, which looks just like New York, we don't. But this gave enough of the feeling without being too much of a parody, and of course Cordelia makes everything seem more L.A. Because she is L.A. embodied. She's everything it stands for.
And Charisma Carpenter, who played this same character on Buffy for 3 years, when Joss suggested that we spin Angel off into his own show, I said we should take Cordelia with him because she is so bright and so, funny and full of light, and it occurred to me that would be a nice contrast.
It was, in fact, the first words out of his mouth. When I said, Angel should have a dark brooding show, he said, can Cordelia come?
Well, actually, the second words after, thank you, thank you, thank you.
But she is absolutely perfect for the show because she doesn't belong in it. And in the way that Buffy undercuts, the pretentious monsters around her, Cordelia undercuts everything that Angel tries to be in terms of, I'm Batman, I'm alone, and then he has this gal Friday who just puts up with none of that. And of course, the character deepens in texture throughout the series. She was very vain and ridiculous on Buffy, and she's still most of those things because it's so funny, but she's grown very much as a person. A lot of people didn't respond to her at first on the show because she thought she was just a bimbo, but she clearly becomes more than that. And giving her the visions was also part of that process.
Angel can see the girl's in trouble.
Because the bad man has a goatee.
Yeah,
and
that's how you always know.
Goatees mean trouble. Another bad thing is parking garages. Parking garages usually mean trouble.
They really do. And we didn't fail them.
As do stunt actors.
Yeah, we're not saying underground parking garage is, a hackneyed staple of 70s television, but in fact, little did we know how often we'd end up in them because, newsflash, our character vampire can't go out in the daylight, although this is nighttime. We have found ourselves in the underground parking garage more than once. This is, in fact, my favorite part of the show, and one of the reasons I want to do the show. When Joss pitched the idea that the girl's in incredible jeopardy, Angel leaps into his car like the greatest superhero we've ever seen, and realizes he's leapt into the wrong car. This is so key to me. This is Greenwalt talking. That he make mistakes like that, and he'd be silly like that. It to me really
to make fun of the genre without spoofing it, to be in the moment, to actually have that human reality of, yeah, he'd make that mistake, but at the same time, poking fun at the genre is very key. Oh, hey, there's some exciting stunt acting. I'd like to point out that I had no monitor, and something in the back of my head said, make sure the driver doesn't do too much, but unfortunately, I didn't actually say it because we were behind schedule.
Yeah, all this done in about 6 hours of work, too, I think. Perfectly wonderful.
Everything moving. David hits people with great authority. He has an extraordinary stuntman, Mike Massa, who's, apart from being a great double, has beautiful movement, and they work, as an incredible team. But David himself gives great great authority and great footage. This is yet another of our, trying to twist it around a little bit after all her talk about how successful and Cordelia-esque she was. We see that for the first time in her life, she's completely poor and incredibly lonely. Loneliness is always what our shows end up being, if not about, centered around. The complete aloneness of every individual, and how in the black, bleak, horrible, and all-encompassingly despair of world, we manage to make connections with each other.
Now here's a scene that I begged Joss to put in the main titles where Angel goes, "I made tea," because it just makes me laugh so much. This superhero, this tough guy going, "I made tea." I wanted it to be in the opening titles. But
Yeah, every week he wanted him to make tea for someone, because he really felt that was.
I wanted it to be a running
what the
gag.
show was.
Joss felt it was about saving souls and trying to become a better person and seeking redemption.
But tea, important.
Tea pretty important.
I understand the tea thing. I mean, if you don't have it, you'll know what I mean.
Here's an incredibly heroic moment when he does not take advantage of the girl coming up. When he
Obviously, this is what we call a fiction. He's what we call an heroic character, a mythological figure who does not sleep with the girl when she says that he can. You probably read about that in books.
We skipped over the part where he couldn't sleep with her anyway, because if he knew a moment of perfect happiness, he might turn evil again.
Yes, it's true.
He's got a pesky little curse.
Yes, which actually makes for some swell sexual tension, and because when there's no sex at all, then everything, as Neil Jordan once said, becomes sexual.
And you don't leave him. I knew this girl, Denise.
I actually like this scene quite a bit, and I think it's lovely when he says he's going to help her. And in fact, not take advantage of her as everyone else in this great, big, lonely town has.
Now, needless to say, that's something we've also seen in 70s TV, but they don't usually get the girl killed. Okay? So again,
I think
new and fresh.
I think again, head and shoulders above the genre there.
We're going to the library.
We're going to the library, and here's a good insight into when you're making pilots.
I was like, we got to shoot the library. We got to go to the beautiful LA library downtown, and we got to get tons of shots of it, because we're going to be there every episode. We're always going to go to the library. Well, first of all, we didn't shoot this in the library. We shot it, actually, I think, in the same room where we shot Buffy and Giles in the library.
Oh, you're right. This is just an establishing shot of the library, and then we built our own little thing.
And then Angel never went to the library again as long as we lived.
And we had a whole scene where he talks to a guard in the library, and you realize he has a whole relationship. He can get in there late at night.
And it was really unimportant.
Therefore, never filmed.
But and also, of course, the tunnels that go everywhere. As you can see, that's the pit in the middle of his room, which is a very cool piece of effect. It really gives you the sense that he lives underground, that there are tunnels underneath. It also makes it impossible to shoot there because there's a big pit in the way, and there's nowhere for people to go, and there's nowhere for the camera to roll around as it needs to, which is, again, why explosions come in.
And one thing I learned doing this show is that you can get anywhere in LA in tunnels, even into, there's sewers that go under everywhere, and you can even get into private residences and stuff.
Yes,
with these,
much like Sunnydale.
with this massive artery of underground tunnels.
Did we mention cheesy hacks?
Here at the crucial moment when she should and could trust him, she sees the little note that Doyle gave him, and she erroneously believes that Angel is somehow involved with the evil fella that's been stalking her. In fact, she cannot trust him and cannot make a connection.
And in classic Angel fashion, he's about to make things much worse.
I was playing with my head.
Don't take the elevator, you'll never catch her.
He morphs into a vampire, and a part of his true self is revealed.
With that makeup, really temporary.
Yeah, we worked on that. We wanted the makeup to be scarier than it was on Buffy, but I think we made it too big.
Yeah, on Buffy, he started to look like he was just perturbed because it was
It was
just
so
a tiny
minor.
wrinkle. So we found a happy medium. Now this,
By the way, beautiful one-hour shot here. Film fans.
handheld camera giving it urgency. That's something I came up with myself that you'll never have seen before again.
By the way, we're in Act 3 before we see the bad guy.
Here's Vito giving us a nice variation on what is kind of a stock villain, the multimillionaire who's depraved, who can do whatever he wants. Of course, in our case, a vampire, but, a nice low-key performance.
She wanted to go.
She wants to believe despite what she knows.
Inside the box, but I don't
Again,
go around
Tracy
killing my friend.
giving us her all. This originally was the end of Act 2, but we felt that people would see it coming if it was an act break, whereas if we ended Act 2 with her still alive and in the beginning of Act 3 killed her off, people would be more surprised.
At one point, we spoke about seeing Angel racing through tunnels and trying to get to her, so that you would think that he's going to burst in and save her.
Into something.
And it's still edited in such a way that I believe
We still, yes,
you
we
think
still,
he's going to burst
we
into
still edit it. Tried to make him a bit more of a diseased, depraved vampire. Yes, so that
Oh,
it
that's
looks
a
like
beautiful cut. That's
he's there in time,
I love that camera move.
and then we find out it's actually been a time cut, and she's long dead. Now this was a thing where originally, and we shot it. When he touches the blood, he actually tastes it. He actually has a moment where he can't resist it and he tastes it. And that has to do with what Doyle was telling him about if you don't get near people, you'll think of them as food. It didn't ultimately feel earned. It was my favorite moment in the script, and then we realized we had to cut it because it just didn't feel earned.
So much of the pilot was based on that moment. When we broke the pilot, when we broke the story for the pilot, the idea of him licking the blood. And I believe the fair,
Yes.
young, and incredibly talented Marty Noxon
Yes.
had some help in that.
That was our Batman moment. I stand on the rooftop. We love him on rooftops. Now this scene, we shot later. We had a very sensitive, poignant, and motionless scene of him and Doyle in the tunnel, and we realized what we needed was a call to arms. What we needed was to start the momentum going, that it wasn't time for him to brood anymore. The girl had gotten killed, and it was time for him to become the hero again, to get truly pissed off. So we shot this after we had a first cut of the show. And it helped it enormously.
I don't want to open up. I want
It really did. It showed him in action.
Although him, complaining and being all miserable seemed really cool.
Good time.
This is a mansion you'll see. I saw it recently in a movie. You see it in a bunch of them. It's kind of silly looking, but it films very beautifully. It is around Malibu.
And hardcore fans will recognize Christian Kane playing Lindsay MacDonald, the Wolfram and Hart lawyer, who comes back at the end of the first year and then has a huge run on the show in the second year.
Lindsay, with very little to do, has enormous presence and really embodies what we wanted for our villains, which is a group of young go-getter lawyers who are just evil incarnate, working for a great conglomerate, rather than have the master or some seeable villain, as we had on Buffy, to have an entire corporation. Just sort of, an unseen, all-encompassing, we make the bad world run, L.A. kind of corporation be the villain. And Christian was a great way to introduce it because he seems young and earnest. He seems like, a good lawyer.
Yeah, we didn't have some special hatred of lawyers, but we like the notion of this all-encompassing law firm, something that brokered deals for other people. A giant corporation that neither created nor produced some product on their own. Now, while the bad guy is focusing in on charisma, Angel is basically kicking ass and taking names, throwing people through windows, and working his way up to the bad guy.
This is a great, I want to get back to the lawyer thing for one sec, great anti-lawyer time, but the fact is, it's wonderful to have a bad guy who doesn't actually want to kill the hero every week, because then when he doesn't feel bad. Someone who is just there to maybe help someone else kill the hero or kill someone innocent, or just, is never quite so in the center of things that you can really focus on them. Here's charisma being very funny. Again, getting the vulnerability of someone she's trying to be Cordelia, and she can't anymore because her life is so terrible.
It's a very important shot that I think expresses the...
I was going to the pills.
Oh, going to the pills.
From the head to the pills, and they racked to the sweater. It wasn't. I wasn't with the shot. I mean, it's not my fault. Again, it's just sort of a variation on an old theme, go out with the rich old guy and, you'll make it in this business. But of course, it's murderous and demonic.
Wow, you're really going to war?
And now Angel is, in a sense, finally doing what Doyle might want him to do, which is to take action to protect and help people. But...
in fact, he's really just going for vengeance at this point because he has no idea that Cordelia is even in danger.
yeah, that it's someone he knows, that means something to him.
Also, he's told Doyle that he has to come with him, and of course...
yeah, Doyle doesn't like that.
That gate really, at that house, quite a special place. Another change of act breaks. Originally, her driving up and the gate closing was
the end of Act 3.
and it didn't register. We've never restructured a show so much while we were editing it as we did this.
By the way, that's a little reshoot right there.
Yes,
Hardcore fans will notice his hair is slightly shorter. That was a close-up we did.
Or they wouldn't if you hadn't mentioned it.
Yeah, the notion of the gates booming shut in our minds and that car driving in there was great when we wrote it.
But then when I directed it, apparently not as great. Kind of weird how that, there's a falling off there.
Yeah, there's always a discovering of, the pilot is a pilot is a really hard thing to do. Now, Angel, in a sense, being a spin-off from Buffy, we're not recreating the entire world with the show, but still you discover it as you go. And
your strengths and weaknesses, and one of the strengths we discovered was how funny this girl is. She really, in this particular scene especially, just lit it up. And when she discovers he's a vampire, it's a great moment because, again, the helpless girl suddenly, being on top of things is a charming twist.
One of the fun of doing these genre shows is that you can have this sort of wacky juxtaposition. So at the moment she's her most vulnerable and going to debase herself the most, she can suddenly turn on a dime and say, hey, you're a vampire.
Here's the guy we like to call Bobby Roscommere.
Yeah.
Or Herb
Saunders or Bobby Roscommere. This is Angel playing a kind of a wacky character. A mook. And we keep meaning to do this more in the show.
David loves to do it. He does it really well.
You'll see the little blue in the sky there. This was probably about 5:15 in the morning, wouldn't you say?
Yes, when they actually pull out, when they actually pulled up, rather, it was, we had to shoot them into the ground because the sky had the sun shining in it at that point. This was a grueling all-night shoot. Not the first, nor the last on Angel. The guy's a vampire, and we recently discovered that he's a vampire all the time.
Really can't go out in the sun much.
And the crew loves getting up at 5 in the afternoon on a Monday to shoot all night and then doing that all week. They thank us for it.
As I was saying earlier, because of the genre, you can go from her teary-eyed to saying, "Hey, wait a minute, you're a vampire."
We both work in genre more than in regular drama because you have certain rules that make it fun. You have car chases and heroes and villains and monsters and all those things, but you also have those rules to play against. And, on both shows, that's always our intent, is to take you into a scene you assume is going to be terrifying and make you laugh, take you into a scene you assume is going to be sexy and poignant and chop somebody's head off. Always play the opposite, and without the rules of genre, you couldn't do that. There would be no opposite. So it's a great place to work in. Although we both love the genre, we love the hero, we care about Angel, undercutting what people expect.
That's always fun.
It's always fun, and it makes it mean more when you're just straight on get heroical.
We were into a bit of a James Bond space here with the setting little timer bombs off on the electrical and cat burglar stuff.
I think after that we just got bored and had him just run into places.
That was a really nice shot. Again, the hardcore fans will notice it's, Russell is at the bottom of the stairs, and then the real Russell is at the top of the stairs. It's a beautiful wonder where he suddenly gets all the way up. Here's Angel walking out of pitch blackness.
And again, a nod to Herb Davis, our DP. Out of an all-white room, he managed to create perfect blackness, which is not actually that easy to do.
An all-white room turns into what they call a bounce card effect, which means, whatever light there is going to bounce off those white walls. And there's just Cordelia bigger than life saying, "You're about to get your ass kicked, mister."
And try not to notice the stuntman's human neck, because that would be bad.
That would be very bad.
A big enough balcony to have a nice fight on, and some vertical depth. It's something you don't get to do a lot in TV. You don't get to have that because everything's in studios, everything's on the floor.
Here's our hero taking the first of many bullets he will take in the series, because bullets don't kill him, but they still hurt like heck. And here's a beautiful jump and fall. And now, Doyle, who is basically as cowardly as you or I, he's waited his required 10 minutes, and he says, "Okay, I've had enough."
This is where the day is coming.
Yeah, there's a very blue sky there if you look closely.
We've treated the sky there.
Again, here's my second or third favorite moment in the show in terms of, he's going to do his big heroic thing he doesn't want to do, and good gate, he says.
In that movie. We've seen all of them. We've seen every show. We've seen every movie. We love them all, but we need to make fun of them as often.
Yeah, you so expect him to go bashing through that gate. It's those moments that really keep the show fresh for me. Now, for the first time, he has some people around helping him. And it's just the barest beginnings of a new little family for him.
Getting everything in one shot makes it go faster, unless, of course, they crack up constantly, as those guys were on that day.
Then it's impossible to get that one shot.
That's not even a doorway, actually.
That is not a doorway.
We're on the 32nd floor of a really huge building.
Yeah, it's a strange balcony.
So we created the doorway out of it.
Broke in your home last night.
The fact that Lindsay is completely unperturbed by the entrance of the hero makes for a great balance between them. We wanted very much to show the Wolfram and Hart logo. We weren't sure if they would register. We weren't sure if people would take to it, if it would actually become a part of the show. And it really did.
Not the easiest word for all of our actors to say, Wolfram and Hart, but...
Yes, occasionally comes out Wolfram.
And here we have the hero and the villain facing off in daylight, in a sort of safe and secure boardroom, as opposed to on a mountain cliff somewhere. And The point being that, the villain is telling Angel that he doesn't understand how life is conducted here in LA and what you can get away with, as long as you play by certain rules. He's saying he feels you can do anything.
And then Angel proves him wrong, and it's cool. Great thing about shooting a pilot is they let you do something incredible. And this stunt, which had the stuntman on a wire and the cameraman, who was our stunt coordinator, Jeff Caliente, for that show, on a wire next to him, shooting him at the same time. An extraordinary work.
It's called a
really
decelerator or something like that. And they actually fall down the side of the building. Here's the first mention, again for the hardcore fans, of the senior partner or partners, which
comes into play.
We, in fact, see one come episode 16 of the second year.
Now this is the phone call sequence, which again was a nod for the Buffy and Angel fans. The first episode of Buffy that aired during this season 4 in college, she answers the phone and nobody speaks. And in this, we had her voice answering the phone, so we connected the two shows. You didn't need to see the one to enjoy the other, but if you watched both, you understood what was happening, that there was a moment where they almost made a connection and didn't.
Angel feels he hasn't really accomplished anything, particularly because Tracy Middendorf died at the top of Act 3, but he realizes he, in fact, has helped someone very important.
Important and wacky.
Okay, first thing, we need to call an exterminator.
That's what we need.
And a sign painter.
This scene was very hard to shoot.
There were many hours and a few retakes involved in this scene.
Well, we just...
This added some years to Mr. Whedon's brow.
We actually ended up shooting half of it another day because it just got to be too much, and you never know what scene it's going to be because, look, they're just standing and talking, but it just sort of, it fell away, and we couldn't get it, and the actors struggled, and so we finally just, we shut down for the day and came to it later to finish Charisma's side of it so that we could, this is the thing we learned first off, the giant helicopter stunt is going to go fine. The person stepping off the curb is going to take you 6 hours to shoot. You never know what it's going to be. But the moment is there completely of her basically telling him she's having a job and then clearly being vulnerable and asking for it, and him accepting her and finally smiling.
It's so great when he smiles in the show because it's such a rare occurrence. And plus, first use of the word stiffener on TV that I can recall, I believe.
That's what's important. We're breaking new ground.
And then Doyle repeating what he said earlier. He asks Angel are you game? And then again, here he says, are you game?
And we get our last hero image.
You game?
Angel overlooking the city. And I believe this is actually something that Joss shot for the presentation.
This particular shot, yes.
It was not shot for the puppet, shot for the presentation. Angel standing up on a big building alone, and he says off camera, I'm game. And then you have those two wacky guys who produced it.
Boring would be another word for that.
That's,
We're done. We're not talking anymore.
Have fun.
Grr, arg.